Okay, please note that today's meeting may be recorded. This recording will be broadcast on the authority's website and may be used for training purposes by the Democratic Services Department. All attendees will be in view of the camera, and by attending, you are consenting to being filmed and to possible use of those images and sound recordings being used as outlined above. Prynawn da, croeso i'r cyfarfod, diolch I chi gyd am dod. Good afternoon and welcome to today's Neighbourhood Services Countryside and Planning Scrutiny Committee meeting of 2nd of December 2024 at 4 p.m. Agenda item number 1, apologies for absence. I don't believe we've had any. I just confirm with Democratic. Okay, no apologies. Thank you, Matthew. Agenda item number 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and prejudicial interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government and Finance Act 1992 relating to council tax, the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Members' Code of Conduct. Are there any members who wish to make a declaration of interest? Councillor Bill Smith.
The memory bench on tree policy. I got 2 benches on the lake, just in case somebody want to pick it up.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith. Nobody else indicating. Okay, agenda item number 3, memorial bench and tree policy. The report author is Mark Panniers, and it's being presented here today by Cabinet Member David Jones, and I believe questions will be answered by Barry Mason.
Thank you very much, Chair. Application forms for memorial benches were previously available for the public to submit. However, there was no consistent approach to the cost, bench design and location of the benches. The Council did not have a record of the number of benches and trees being installed, and this has identified capacity issues at certain sites. A GIS mapping survey has taken place, and the number of benches at each site has been identified as shown from page 15 to page 31 in the report. This policy would ensure a standardised approach to the new memorial benches and trees, and that each memorial application is treated in a fair, transparent and consistent manner, and ensure good, efficient use of MTCBC resources. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David Jones. Pass over to questions from members. Don't all press the button at once. Councillor Bill Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I read the report. I know we haven't got enough room around the lake for any extra benches. So are we going to manage to put the benches, are we going to put extra benches on the pathway leading up from the castle to the main gate, or we could put benches up through the woods? When people want to put benches down for them, because we can't stop the benches going there.
Sorry. It's something that we were open to looking at. I think the original thing about capacity was around the lake. So we would judge it on, if someone asked for a site there, we'd look at it for its safety purposes, if it was near the road, and with it being up near the lakes, it's a case of, with our biodiversity, putting a concrete slab in certain positions, is it feasible? So it is something that we can possibly do. It's just the original mapping was where the majority of benches were around the lakes, and we'd reach capacity there for the park. So it's something that can possibly happen in future, but we'd have to take each case on its merit.
I just want to know, because once you make a stop in one place, they stop everywhere, don't they, sometimes? So got that.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just wanted to pursue the benches at the moment around the Cyfarthfa Park Lake. There's quite a few there. Just for confirmation, are you saying that that's totally saturated, that there's no spaces there to put any more benches? Because obviously, as far as Cyfarthfa Park is concerned, that is the most popular site?
At the moment, there is more benches in Cavartha Park than any other park, as you look on the report, by quite a lot. We felt that when we'd done a survey of the other parks, we would try and put some into Thomastown Park, Taff Bargoed, things like that. Now, we will review the condition of each bench yearly. There are some that have been there for a number of years. If they become unsafe, they'll be removed, and the opportunity for new benches would go in their place. But when we did a survey of the amount of benches, it seemed as though there was a significant number around the lakes. But as I said before, we are open to different areas being put with benches, namely the top ponds and the top fields, if people would request that. But around the lake at the moment, there is a high number of benches, and we think there's an adequate number of benches for members of the public.
Yeah, okay. And as far as because it's the largest park in the county borough, you just mentioned around the ponds. Are there any other areas around the park that benches could be sited?
There are. There's the top fields can be put into action as places that benches could be put. We have benches that aren't memorial benches yet in certain locations that could be offered if that was something that people wanted. But for Cavartha Park itself, the majority of people, if they wanted a memorial bench, would be round the lakes. That's why there's such a high number now. At the moment, I think we would have to put a stop to benches around the lake until we can decrease the number slightly. But there are other positions. If someone wanted a bench in Cavartha Park, there are other places that we could look into.
Yeah. And whilst we're talking about benches, I note that the majority that are there at the moment are in memoriam to a loved one. It's the question of individuals leaving flowers and other things attached to the benches, up at the side of the benches. Is there something that, I know it's a sensitive issue, but is there something that can be done about that?
There is. So in the policy, and when we speak with each person that puts an application in, we do advise them that it isn't recommended that they put flowers or keepsakes on the benches. We do inform them that the staff around the parks do a check each week, sometimes every 2 weeks, to remove flowers, and any keepsakes will be kept in the parks department. If someone wanted to come and say this has been taken, we'd keep it for 6 months or to a year for someone to reclaim it. But it is in the policy that flowers and anything like that would be removed by staff, but we'd prefer it to not be put there.
Do you get them to sign a form to that effect?
Yes, on the application that they sign, it does mention there that flowers and keepsakes are not permitted on the benches that they sign.
Okay, thank you. Good job.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor Paula Leighton.
Thank you, Chair. Does the memorial bench policy also cover the cemeteries, or is that a different policy altogether? And when they request for the parks and things, is it different to what we would expect for the cemeteries?
Yeah, my understanding is it's a different policy that will be done by the manager of the cemeteries. So I believe they're looking into that now.
Okay. And also, can you define what application a memorial bench would be deemed as unsuitable? If someone put an application form in for a bench, what would be deemed unsuitable for?
The location, I think.
That would be the main.
Yeah, whether if a bench had been there before, or whether it was too close to a road, things like that. That would be how we'd assess it. The only thing I could think that would be unsuitable would be the location of a bench. But
there's a set standard for the actual bench itself, is there? A structure?
Yeah, the bench would have to go into a concrete base that would be built by the staff. So we'd have to factor in the ground, whether it could take the concrete, and then, like I said, about what's surrounding it. Yeah.
Okay. When would it be deemed there are enough benches at a location? Have you stopped placing benches in any locations other than obviously around the lake in Cavartha Park? Have we got to that stage yet?
We haven't set a limit for each individual park, but obviously judged on their size of each park, the limits would be a different number. I think that's something we would review each year, depending on how many applications we get. Myself and Mark and Judith would look at the applications that we've had and how many benches have increased and monitor it on the map, and then maybe look if we were reaching what we felt was a high amount, then we judge it from there.
Okay, thank you, Barry. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Paula Layton. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. Barry, on page 9 and page 13, it identifies the areas that memorial benches and trees will be placed. Now, the vast majority of them are in the lower valley. So the only real areas open to members in the Northern Valley is Thomastown Park, because as you say, Cyfarthfa is quite saturated at the moment, and it's not really clear where a resident can place a bench. Now, I'm all for the policy. As you're aware, there's a current family who living close by me has got an application in for Thomastown Park, and when this hopefully gets passed by Cabinet or Council, that bench then will get placed. But I just wonder, when, especially when a tree comes down in the park, in Cyfarthfa Park or Thomastown Park, quite a large one, and it's going to be replaced, can we do something to get members of the public then to perhaps apply for a memorial tree to be planted in its place? That's the first question on that. And with benches, maybe in playgrounds, children's playgrounds, because we do have benches in there now for members of the public, and maybe perhaps we could have a memorial bench placed in there. As you know, currently we've got hopefully one going into Ilgeric Park shortly. Not a memorial bench, but a bench that's come from Keep Girls Tidy. So I think there is scope for more, and I just wondered, if that can be extended now after the scrutiny meeting, maybe to include land like our playgrounds, and maybe land that's adjacent to perhaps bus stops, and there's an area on the corner of Shirley Drive in Ilgeric at the moment which has a council bench on it that perhaps could be replaced with a memorial bench in time. So I think we just need to perhaps open up for especially residents in the Northern Borough where there isn't much scope for them at this moment in time.
Okay. The first question, I think, with the trees falling down and increasing the awareness of memorial trees, then that's something that we're looking at with our biodiversity team, and possibly look at the aspects of putting on social media once the policy is in place about how we can alert people to apply for memorial trees. Most definitely, I think we're looking to increase the number of trees that we're planting in all of our parks before one's even come down. So that is an option for members of the public once a tree's up, that they can apply for it to be a memorial tree, and there would be a plaque at the bottom for the person that they've asked it to be for. More than happy for benches to go in places where there's already existing benches. We would look at possibly replacing them if it's out of condition, or putting a plaque on there if someone wanted that, if the bench was in good condition. I think with the schools, we'd have to involve education as well to make sure that they were on board with wanting the memorial bench in the playground. So I would be open to that if the education department were in consultation with us, most definitely.
Yeah, right. Sorry, just going to bring Judith in. I think Judith wants to come in on this as well.
Yeah, just to agree with what Barry said, happy to take that as an action from Scrutiny, if you like, to review, whether we should be looking at playgrounds in the north of the borough, county borough, because as you say, there's not that much capacity at the moment. So happy to take that as an action to review that, whether that's appropriate to add to the policy.
Thank you very much. And I've got a question, which is the last comment really, is just, thank you for the report, because it does give us something then so we can speak to residents about. So when they do come to us, and it's quite an emotive subject after someone's passed away, that we've got something to show them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Geraint Thomas. Philip Starr.
Thank you, Chair. This is just a request for information, really. How many requests or applications do you get from residents for trees?
So far, since we've started logging the applications since I've taken over, I think we've had 4 requests, and we've got 10 for benches.
Okay, so there is a discrepancy between the requests for trees as opposed to benches.
Yes.
Would that be a publicity issue, or would that be more to do with the fact that people traditionally like the idea of a bench? Is the fact that a tree is possibly available as a memorial to people not as well known as benches?
I found when I was originally starting the policy and speaking to people, benches are more visible. So people tend to walk around the lake or walk around a park and see a bench and think that would be a good tribute. Whereas the trees at Cyfarthfa are up in the Rose Garden. So it's maybe dog walk, less people would go and see them. So it's something it's more there for the public to see, which engages them to think, oh, I'll request that. But again, as the question earlier, I think if we were to focus more on saying this application is available and you can request trees, then I would hope that the applications would go up, because I think planting more trees, memorial trees, would be better for us as a parks department.
Yeah.
And much longer lasting.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. They're going to last longer than 10 years, hopefully, if the tree's planted
so, yeah,
well.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Philip Starr. Councillor David Hughes.
Chair, my question is to Judith, or the portfolio lead. Is it possible, rather than have two policies, wouldn't it be better to have one policy that covers the cemeteries and the parks? Your parks department in the end, cemetery comes under parks department. Rather than have two policies, why not have just one policy on the bench policy that would cover them both?
I think we felt that it made sense to keep them separate because they are separate types of places. It's not to say they absolutely can't be one policy. There was more of an urgency to bring this forward because of the number of requests we were getting at the moment, and as Barry explained at the start, there wasn't a policy in place. But we just felt that given the sensitivities of a cemetery versus a park, that it made sense to keep them separate, but happy to take Scrutiny's views on that.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Bill Smith.
Do you know in the policy you've got a 10-year gap, you said? After 10 years, what's going to happen? Do you move the bench at 10 years? Do we have to pay rent on that bench that's parked around the lake after 10 years? So that as a present moment, everything's free in it. So what's the idea is about over the 10 year?
We would review the bench, and if it's still in safe condition and working condition, then it would remain as a memorial bench in its place.
So more health and safety.
Yeah.
Right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Bill Smith. Councillor Clive Jones.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The waiting list. How many have we got on the waiting list for each park at the moment?
So at the moment, the waiting list is there's 5 applications in. So I think there's one for Thomastown Park, there's one for Taff Bargoed, there's one for Abercanid. So there isn't a waiting list as such for each park at the moment.
Right. So,
they for other areas.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody's waiting for this policy to be adopted.
I would agree. Yeah.
Before, so once this policy is adopted, you may well get more applications, but existing at the moment, you've got 5.
Yes.
Which are outside all the parks.
Yes. Well, one's in Thomastown Park. And then others.
Yes, sorry.
But then with this policy now, someone could phone up and say, "Where am I on the list?" And we'd be able to tell them that you are number 7.
Yes.
And
yeah.
So be more accurate.
Okay. And once this policy is adopted within the authority, that will be advertised to the public so that they know that they can apply now, and it'll be
I think
looked at and dealt with.
Depending on what Mark and Judith would like to do with contacting the social media team about advertising, it's open. But I think once sort of Cabinet know that the policy's been passed, I'm sure that you'd let your constituents know that have informed you and raised questions about it. But yeah, we probably would like to notify people that we have made a change of policy and they're available now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Philip Starr.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Thomas mentioned the fact that there may be other particular areas within the borough where you could possibly look at placing benches and trees. What about the Taff Trail? Who would give permission if somebody wanted to place a bench on the Taff Trail? There is one, it's a very noticeable one at Kevin, to Tommy Thomas, isn't it? By the flats in Kevin. Who would give permission for a bench to be located somewhere prominently on the Taff Trail?
My understanding would be that we would have to consult with rights of ways, and then I believe the land is owned by Welsh Water, I think. But if there was an application in, that's something we could look into and contact the different departments to make sure that we'd given a decent answer to the person of whether we could or couldn't do it. But
because the Taff Trail is a long area,
yeah,
you know, it's extensive if you determine how long it actually is, and also very well utilised as well, increasingly well utilised. So people are walking around the lake, they like to see the benches. Possibly there are areas that Taff Trail that are quite popular. So just wondering whether and who would then be responsible for giving permission. As you said, it could be multi-agency.
Yeah.
But that's another potential option, to place them in a prominent location on
most
that,
definitely, yeah,
on that walking route.
If an application come in, we'd look into that to work out how we could do it. Most definitely.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Philip Starr. Councillor Clive Jones.
It's on the very point that Phil has just made. As far as playgrounds are concerned, and parks and even cemeteries for that matter, there are staff around and back and forth. It's a total kettle of fish as far as the Taff Trail is concerned. It's long, and there aren't staff or even security staff back and forth on that trail. And the one thing I would say about that, Chair, is that could be open to abuse.
If there was a bench on the Taff Trail,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's unfortunately something that we have to deal with, as we've had benches that have been vandalised, unfortunately, in parks. But once they're reported, we try and respond as quickly as possible to try and either remove any graffiti or try and repair any damage as quick as we can.
But for example, in Cyfarthfa Park, you have a security rota there, so that, you know, on occasions, they can catch them red-handed, but there is somebody moving around the park, but you don't have that in the Taff Trail.
No.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
I'm not sure if Councillor Smith's before me.
No, your name was on the screen.
Okay. Okay. Age before beauty, see, so yeah, I was just saying. I just want to, you know, perhaps alleviate Councillor Jones's fears. I walk the Taff Trail quite frequently, and I think if you are going to put a bench here, it has to be metal. The ones the other side of the Ponsarn Viaduct, there's a couple there which are intact. Tommy Thomas's one, as you say, you know, on the other viaduct in Kevin, that's in good condition. So I think if we're going to put benches in exposed places, they will have to be metal rather than timber.
Thank you, Councillor Geraint Thomas. Councillor Bill Smith.
Thank you, Chair. A lot of discussions have been about park benches and benches all around the community borough. And Judith made a point, all this could be reviewed. Can we have a working party of cemeteries, the parks, rights of ways, because we're talking three different departments, more or less, I mean, different officers, to a working party for them to get up and see what we can do, how can we work together. Because it's pointless us coming back here for cemeteries and something else. It's time consuming. You know yourself, you haven't got the staff around. So why can't we work together and take it forward?
Chair, if I can come in on that. I think there is an urgency to get this particular policy through. I know a number of councillors have contacted us about it. So I think it's probably in our interest to progress with this at this time. But by all means, yeah, you know, we can continue to review. As Barry said, cemeteries are currently working on theirs, and we can continue to review and possibly amalgamate them moving forward. But I think it is best if we progress with this one at the moment.
Well, no, get us forward. But then you'll have different applications, different areas. Is take it forward as one, because you're just running around in a circle, it's not going nowhere.
Yeah, fair point, yeah.
No. And can I said, sorry, thank you.
Councillor Bill Smith. Any other questions from members? Okay, I've got one. Barry, just a quick question in regards to 3.4 of the bench policy. It says once installed, a bench seat and plaque will become the property of the council. It will be insured and maintained for an initial period of 10 years. What is that insurance? Is that public liability or is that against damage?
Insured against damage. If it's vandalised or damaged, then we would replace it at
So-
the cost of the Parks Department.
And does that insurance last for 10 years? So if it's there for 9.5 years and it's starting to wear out a little bit, are you going to replace it?
Yes. If it's inside the 10 years, then
Yeah.
we would replace the plaque. If it was caused by vandalism,
The bench and the plaque?
yes.
Yeah, okay, lovely. Thank you, Barry. No other questions from members? Nobody's indicating. Any comments, members?
Can I make a comment, not on this policy?
Hold on, I think Councillor David.
No. Sorry.
No, you have come in first.
carry on.
Sorry, Bill.
Yeah, I'd just like to say it's an excellent report. And it's long overdue, as you said. So thank you, Barry, for that. Sorry, Bill, you could have.
Councillor Bill Smith?
The report is great. How we can take it forward? We've got to review it and make it better for the people out there that can scream and shouting for seats overnight and we won't get it. So on the other, I was going to make a comment. Is the lights in the park on the tree? I can be honest, it's outstanding. And the people told me how good it's looking up there. Great, so no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any other comments from members? Okay. A little bit later in the scrutiny meeting, we'll come back in regards to the purpose of the report and I believe in regards to the action that Councillor Geraint Thomas has mentioned as well. Okay, agenda item number 4, Traffic Management and Road Safety Service Overview. Report author is Martin Stark, being presented today by Cabinet Member David Jones, and I believe both Martin Stark and Lisa Clement-Williams will answer questions.
Thank you, Chair. This report provides an overview of the functions and current processes in place for the management of traffic and road safety throughout the County Borough. The Traffic Management and Road Safety is a statutory service and a core function of the authority, covering a wide range of duties, including traffic regulation orders, road closures, on-street parking surveys, to name a few, as well as offering road safety training through various initiatives to schools and through other events. The service incorporates traffic engineering, traffic education, traffic enforcement and traffic economics as the main aspects of improving traffic flow and road safety in the County Borough. Consultation and cooperation with other departments, including active travel, is essential for the best outcomes for Merthyr Tydfil. The service has a significant impact on demand. For example, Section 4 and 5 outline the number of temporary road closures which have been processed for various events, also the number of traffic regulation orders created. The report outlines the impact of cycle and road safety training and our performance against key indicators, with Merthyr Tydfil meeting or being above the Welsh averages in 21-22. In 6.4, detailing the aim to improve these further. However, despite the impact and excellent work which the section continues to provide, it is not without its challenges, and the latter part of the report details the need to source additional funding and resources to maximise their impact and continue the activities with schools and other events, as well as social media campaigns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor David Jones. I'll pass over to questions from members. Councillor Bill Smith.
Can somebody ask this question, or answer this question I'm going to give you? Because Friday morning in town, we've got the lay-bys for the cars parking outside the shops. Well, it'll take about 3 cars in the lay-by, and then somebody will park at the end, and his tail end sticking out. Well, by holding on a bit, it was chaos. Right? People sticking the back end out, nobody could pass. The arm was a bit naughty. Right? So why can't we put a little yellow line on the twig of the lay-bys to stop cars parking that yard out? Because it's chaos there, right? Up a Pomona site is absolute chaos. And people are just parking where they want to park.
Yeah, okay. Well, the council's civil enforcement officers, obviously that is a matter for enforcement. We can certainly liaise with them and see if they can make the improvements there. So any vehicles obviously parked, jutting out of the lay-bys, causing a hazard, as long as there's yellow lines there, they should be able to deal with those vehicles and also monitor the situation there.
Well, except we're saying,
Yeah.
but it don't work that way, do it? Right? Black and white, pen, paper, when there were cars on the road, they're not interested. They're only there for one thing, best themselves. But that's going to work, and we don't know, could we do it? Can we do it? Put a little tail yellow light at the end of the lay-bys to stop them parking there, and they can be booked, because at the present moment, they can be booked for obstruction, but they can't be booked for parking.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll speak to the civil enforcement officer, and it's something which we can certainly look into, because obviously it's something which you've raised, which is an issue, so we can definitely look into it.
Great. My other issue is the big one. At the present moment now, we have got 2 new schools being built. Bishop Ellie, Goethe School, primary school, and we've got the old Goethe School has been changed into a Welsh school. So it was, well, there's 3 schools. We've got the biggest social housing estate in the area. She's laughing already, she knows that. We got the most narrowest road up the avenue to go to the social housing estate. And we got Bishop Elliot built in Pendaran. You know the setup of the road. 2 cars can't pass top of the avenue or the walk into the Gurnos entrance. Chaos. You've got a one-way system coming down. That's chaos. You've got Gwynwallen School there on the corner in the morning and 4 o'clock is absolute chaos. So you tell me how that's going to work together, because I've seen the reports and I know I'm a dull boy, but I'm not that dull. You're going to have chaos there. So what's the best way we can work around it? Because in 2 years' time, 2.5 years' time, it's up and going. There's more cars on the road, and how do we deal with it? Do we buy houses, knock them down? Or do we make it like a one-way system? You can't put lights there, people go park cars there. So all this has been looked into, released a long time ago, right? So you tell me how it's going to work.
Yeah, the problem is obviously terrace properties don't have their own parking facility.
Oh, agree, yeah.
So they park in on street. We, as a council, we have powers to introduce yellow lines in accordance with the Road Traffic Act. So we could do that, but the issue is, where are the residents going to park?
Europe, we don't want it. We want to work with the residents,
yeah, that's
the
right.
best way parking possible. So can we look at it and review it? And because that's not going to go away, is it?
No.
You think about it now, with them 2 new schools, and in Bishop Ellie, it's the old Bishop Ellie and 3 schools in. So it's doubling the numbers. So how do the highway take it forward? That's the main thing.
It may be possible to introduce off-road parking areas.
Can we make it a one-way system?
We could possibly consider that, yeah.
Have a look at it, because I want this resolved before the schools are open. I won't be here then, right? I'll be retired. But I'm not having Zurich, no way. This is a serious point north of Borough.
Yeah, we can certainly look at those matters and obviously liaise with you and the other ward councillors.
So give it a year. Will they come back after a year to say what we're doing, how we're doing it?
We'll come back before then.
Are you sure now?
We can work with you.
You sure working, yeah? All right, great.
Just to come in on that, I know Carwyn is involved in all the meetings with the new schools, and we get, make comment on any relation to road safety anyway around that. Obviously, traffic outside the schools, as you know, is, every school. And we do try and work with the school. We work with our junior road safety officers, try and get the message out to parents, if they could walk a little bit. But yeah, we're in conversations with education and obviously everyone all the time about
And
new schools.
It's not so much parking outside the schools, it's the flow of traffic.
Yeah, no, I totally appreciate that. We
When
did
the
try
flow
to
of traffic sticks at top of the avenue. Like,
yeah.
sometimes I'm half over top of the avenue, trying
Yeah.
because they come with the junction, don't look down, don't look up. Right, and they put and you're coming down. So
You know,
chaos.
as I say, all I can say is we're in, you know, discussions all the time with the schools, with education on, you know, how we can try and improve it. But at the end of the day, the drivers are the drivers, and we're not in the vehicle with them when they make the decisions on how they get there. But we try and make the improvements as best we can.
I then wait for a report. Simple as that.
Thank you, Councillor Bill Smith. Councillor David Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. Looking at the finances, Martin, say we raised 40k last year, approximately. To be honest with you, I was inundated with emails off you every day, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I used to fill up my inbox with people asking for road traffic management. I know with increasing costs now, but the number of times you used to send them through, and I drive around the borough and there's loads of utilities stopping and opening up the road without any notice, as I reported a few to you when you've gone out and found that they hadn't requested a road closure. So is there any way that we can look at increasing the fees, as well as is there any way that we can ask, because you've got 3 highway officers out there, if they can also, when they're driving around, or even staff, when they're driving around, if they see a new opening, we can have a number we can ring, because I'm sure when you drive around Merthyr, you can't move half the time because the traffic lights and the road closed.
Yeah.
And half of them, I'm sure, aren't done legally. They just turning up, they open up the road, and we are losing money on that. So is
Yeah,
there
that's
anything?
definitely something we can have a word with the, you know, the highway inspectors and,
Yeah.
you know, the street work coordinators, and, you know, to make sure they can keep an eye out. And like I said, if, you know, if the utility companies don't inform us, then, well, they definitely should, and then we should be invoicing them as well.
Yeah,
But yeah, we do have a lot of requests for temporary road closures. And yeah, they are, when we have a request, you know, the first thing we ask them is, can they do it another way? Do they have to close the road off? It's the last resort, closing a road, because of the impact on everyone. Okay.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Councillor David Hughes. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you guys for coming here today. You know, I'm always astonished how much work you get through, considering how small, you know, the team is in your area, and it has been decimated over the last 10 years through austerity. So, you know, thank you so much for all the work you do, and, you know, keeping, you know, residents safe on the roads, because that at the end of the day is the job. So that's my first. Thank you to you. Secondly, just to follow up on what Councillor Smith said about the town centre and Port Morlas with the traffic there. Yeah, it is bad, and it's even worse in the evenings, with delivery drivers just parking wherever they want on the pavements, left, right and centre, and there's definitely an accident waiting to happen there. And I think it's something you need to look at, perhaps as a road closure area in the evenings or weekends, and that's Port Morlas, Cleveland Street, Victoria Street, because, you know, it is very, very dangerous. And I'm going to come on to my next point then, really, is about how we can work closer with the police. Fair play, Lisa, you contact me on the weekend to let me know about a speed camera being cut down up on the Swansea Road. You know, there's a group of people going around Wales at the moment cutting these down. And fair play, Lisa contacted me to say what had happened. But I was, you know, astonished again when she said to me that we fund those cameras, yet the police get all the revenue from them, and if it wants to be replaced or we do any damage, we've got to pay for it from the council. So can I ask you, you know, what can we do about getting the police perhaps in the room to say, oh, let's share some of this revenue out so we can we're not footing the bill all the time.
Yeah, this is go safe. Obviously, I can have that discussion. It's always been the case is we would get the funding, which we did from Welsh Government, to install all these cameras, but the infrastructure becomes ours, same as a street lighting column. So any damage to it is down to us. The police just deal with the enforcement and the back office, so the camera is there for them to enable enforcement, but the camera and all the infrastructure is ours. So yeah, any damage, it's at our cost. We had one damage down in Quakers Yard. It was taken out in an accident. The camera was £7,500 to replace. I mean, it could be that this camera hasn't been damaged and we can get it back quite quickly. It's on a street lighting column, so again, it's not a a special column. So I'm looking into that. So that might be able to go back quite quickly without an extensive cost to it. But yeah, there is that to it, is that the infrastructure is ours and maintenance costs falls back on us. And unfortunately, Welsh Government don't give us maintenance money when they provide us with funding. So yeah, unfortunately, it is down to us.
A follow-up question on that one, if I may. I know that when the default speed limit was set to 20 mile an hour, there's no mitigation we can use as a local authority then to slow traffic other than go safe cameras. We can't have any speed bumps in there. So if some of these roads now we're talking about, like the Swansea Road, will revert back to 30 miles an hour, instead of spending money on the camera, is there perhaps we'd be better off spending some money on some speed bumps, along that stretch?
Yeah, I know you mentioned this in an email. Obviously, that's a discussion I'd have to have, with the team on the way forward with that. Obviously, in 30 mile an hour areas, we can install maybe traffic calming measures. I know there was discussions of speed tables, but again, like I say, that'll have to be a discussion out of this meeting on the way forward. So, which way we go with, whether we put the camera back or whether we go down the route that you said, and maybe put speed tables at the junction rather than traffic humps along the road. But as I say, that's another discussion to have, and obviously we can feed back to you on that anyway.
Okay, and if I may, Chair, just to follow up on the police business, and if we do have a meeting with the police about it, because I know we get frustrated as councillors when residents come to us and say, what are your parking wardens doing about people parked on pavements, etc.
Yeah.
But the question is then, it's obstruction, isn't it? And that becomes a police matter, not an enforcement matter for us.
Yeah.
And we keep battling back and forth between the both. And again, it'd be great for us if we can have a clear point of view who we go to, with like someone just parking on the pavement, blocking, for any disabled people, any people pushing pushchairs, etc., can't use the pavement.
I mean,
we need action.
Sorry, councillor. There is on the GoSafe website, there are links for people who have community concerns, which I can send out to all councillors. So anybody, any member of the public can report anything they want to on that, and they should investigate it. But obviously that could take time. But there is a way, a form of doing that. But yeah, parking on pavements is a major issue throughout the whole borough. And yeah, as you say, we ask the police to go there. They bat it back to the local authority, asking us what are we going to do about it. So yeah, it's a battle. I know Karen has had I think meetings with Inspector Duckham in the police. This was over another issue. Maybe we need to get him in and have a wider conversation on how we manage throughout the borough. Perhaps we could have that conversation.
Especially town centre, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's key.
Yeah. So happy to take that forward. And
thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Geraint Thomas. Councillor Clive Jones.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions. I'd start off with the last one that Councillor Thomas asked you about enforcement. I was under the impression that the civil parking enforcement officers had powers of enforcement, because we've got a problem in the Parkwood on the Brecon Road in several places where vehicles just take up the whole pavement. But it's the police then, the South Wales Police, and not our civil parking enforcement officers, can enforce that.
It used to be the police, but in quite a few years ago, we took over enforcement when we obtained civil enforcement powers.
Yeah.
So it is the local authority now who enforces, waiting and parking restrictions throughout the borough.
So it's not the police anymore.
Right. Can I come in there?
Yeah.
I think we need to make sure when we're talking about you, if we're talking double out of lines, Clive, that's us.
Oh, yeah, you know that.
But
yeah.
if someone's blocking obstruction on the pavement, That would be the
I thought
case.
you meant the pavement.
That's what I was talking about, yeah.
Right, that's a different matter. Okay. The other one is the top of the avenue that Councillor Bill Smith mentioned. That's in Park Ward. I know the border changed a bit further on when you get up onto the bottom of the Gurness estate. But there's a pinch point there, which has always been a problem, day in, 7 days a week. And Councillor Smith is right. When these schools now are fully operational, when you've got an extra 500 pupils going in the Roman Catholic school, it's going to make the situation much worse. And as you've mentioned, that there's a problem there as to where people park in Gwel Garth on the opposite side to the avenue. Where do they park? There is no other place, frankly. And the problem there is that you've got two lines of traffic coming down. One is coming around from the bottom of the Gurness estate and elsewhere, and the other one's coming down, particularly from Penydarren and Garlacha. So it is a huge problem, and drivers get frustrated, both sides of it. So I think there needs to be real consultation there with all concerned, and as well as perhaps the other members, but it needs consultation with the Park Board, both of us.
Yeah, certainly.
Myself and Louise. But had you ever thought of that particular point, that it may well require permanent traffic lights?
Yeah, it's certainly...
because for me, whatever you do, nothing's going to be suitable as far as the public concerned. But if you've got traffic lights there, and I've seen this elsewhere outside the county borough, where they've put the lights and it disciplines, you've got to obey the traffic signal. So is that something you've thought of? Could be in the past.
We can certainly have a look at the area and we can come up with perhaps a set of options. But that could possibly be one of those options.
Yeah.
We'd obviously see how that would impact the residents. Perhaps it's something which we can perhaps put a scheme together so it doesn't impact the residents that much.
That's right.
But obviously discuss it with the ward councillors and the cabinet members.
Yeah, because if you have traffic lights there, I presume in that situation we could still allow those small number of houses there for the residents to park outside.
Possibly.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. The other one was on Brecon Road, up by the junior site of Carmarthen Park Primary School. Now, I know you've been involved there over the years and you've done everything to try and alleviate the issues. Because outside every school, whether it's secondary or primary, there's always problems. But it's particularly relevant there at that point. I mean, there's a bus bay there. I'm quite sure that a lot of the parents, guardians, grandparents haven't got a clue that if you park in a bus bay, you can be booked. I mean, I'm just dumbstruck the number of times I'm driving up and down there and see them park. They might only be there for a few minutes, but it's a bookable offence, isn't it? Once they've stopped there, then you've put the pedestrian crossing higher up, which obviously has helped and eased the situation for people with their children coming across the road there. And then we've put yellow lines opposite the bus bay. But we've still got people parking regularly on the W lines opposite the bus bay, creating utter chaos. They've been booked over and over again, and they still keep doing it. Now, we had a meeting with the Silver Park enforcement officers, two of them, Scott and his colleague, on Brecon Road a few weeks ago, the Council of Minette Vokes and myself. And what they advised us to stop people parking on the WLO lines opposite the bus bay by the school, that they were going to pursue putting yellow blips on the wall. So there's no pavement there. My question is, how soon can you do that? Because until that is done, we are still going to get people parking on these opposite, and it's at the chaos there. Once they're there, and you've got people as well parked in the bus bay, and there's a bus coming down wanting to park in the bus bay.
I mean, from an education point of view, we try and encourage parents to use the park and walk through. I mean, I've looked and used the pavement, obviously outside. I've discussed about maybe putting a path inside the park.
Yes.
So it attaches to the school. You haven't actually got to be anywhere near the road.
Yeah.
But obviously that's another discussion.
Yeah.
And that will take a bit of time.
Yeah.
The blips would be an instant fine then. So obviously the bus bay, and if anybody's parked on the WR lines with the blips, would be an instant fine, or potentially changing it to school keep clears would be an option potentially, but that's
but sorry, before we come in, Scott seemed to be, and his colleague,
the blips.
They're back and forth there.
I appreciate
daily,
that. Yeah.
Daily, that if they put these blips there, nobody's got any excuse to park on the WR lines.
I had a meeting with the civil enforcement officers about a month ago, and it's something which we discussed, and it's something which we will take forward.
Lovely.
Under the next, set of traffic orders.
Right.
After Christmas.
Right.
So it's something which we're definitely keen to look at.
Right. Lovely. My other question, Chair, is the amount of traffic that comes off the Brecon Road by the Pandy Clock, and they had tailback, trying to cross the bridge, trying to get through the lights by the Mormon Church. Now, you can't go and come off the road in Kevin Coyd because of the work that's been done on the A465. A lot of that traffic, in my view, not all of it, but a lot of that traffic is coming down and going up to Prince Charles Hospital. What I don't understand for the life of me, now when the Cawartha Road Bridge was shut, that was an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare. And particularly for us as ward councillors, we had 3 site meetings on the bridge. And I thought, well, if you employed, for example, in Prince Charles Hospital, and you're still coming down the Brecon Road, they were coming down straight on the Brecon Road, causing a problem a bit further on than the school, which is another pinch point. But is there any way from a traffic management flow that we can have discussions? And as I said, not all of it, but a large chunk of it is, in my view, people going back and forth. They've got appointments in the hospital, and the staff working there, because there's quite a few staff employed in Prince Charles Hospital, to advise them, once they come down the side of the road by Lakeside Gardens, it's not impossible. They can turn right to go up through Kevin, the other end, and get on to the A470 that way. But from what I've seen of it, people are creatures of habit, and they keep on doing the same thing they've done for years and years. I came down today, and the traffic is not just up at the Pandy Clock. It's parked up on the Brecon Road itself. They physically can't, so many cars. Now, is that something that can be looked at to see if we can somehow or other encourage and advise people that they are obtaining access onto the A470? The 90% of them going down that way, that's where they go in and coming from. But in the afternoon, if you see, it's got to be seen to be believed.
We can certainly look at signage opposite as you come down Lakeside.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody wants to get from that point north to Brecon,
Yeah.
then the best route is up through Kevin High Street.
Yeah. Or even if they're going over to Aberdeen, for example, up through Kevin.
Or if they're going sort of south towards Cardiff, so perhaps we can consider a sign opposite the junction.
Yeah. And even one that's flashing, pointing, you know, up there. It really needs to be looked at from a traffic point, flow point of view, because it is an ongoing problem. One last question, Chair. Utilities, it's quite right. They're taking up the road all over the place. I always thought that you had to have permission well in advance. All right, if it's a gas escape, it's urgent, but they've got to come through the authority. But by the sound of it, there's some of these just going along and just digging up the road as they will.
Yeah.
Now, we've had problems with they do the resurfacing, the utilities, or they bring in their own contractors. But we've had problems where they haven't carried out the resurfacing work properly, and there's a number of incidents of that. And we charge them, quite rightly. When we invoice for them, does any amount of that money come into your department? Because as it's been pointed out by Councillor Hughes, you're a small section, very busy. So, or does all that money go straight into the engineering pot?
Yeah, we charge £2,500 for every road closure application, which comes into the traffic management budget.
All of that comes to you? All right, I didn't know that. That's why I asked the question.
It's been quite a large increase from last year's fees. But yeah,
right.
We do get quite a lot of income, and that sort of tops up the traffic management budget, because the traffic management core budget is only like 15,000 for this year.
I know.
So part of the income from temporary road closures takes it up to about 40,000.
Right.
For the traffic budget. So
yeah, and resurfacing work. You know, what do you call them back? That goes in.
My understanding is that if they're called back for resurfacing, then the utility company should, expected to pay for that.
Yeah, and where does that money then goes into your pot as well? Is it?
I'm not quite sure how it works.
No, that's why I asked the question, because you're having to deal with it, aren't you? It comes to you if the resurfacing is not done adequately. Does it come to you?
It would go to the streetworks inspector.
Sorry, you're not involved with making sure that?
Just the road closure, the temporary road closure. Right. But the application for like utility work and for the, any sort of resurfacing will be down to highways. Right.
But he answered my other point as well. Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Councillor David Hughes.
Thank you, Chair. Most of the discussion today been about the education in the schools. Up in Pant, we got a massive problem with cars parking everywhere. And like I see it, I take a young child to school in Pant. And to be honest with you, I can't understand how many people are going to school, because Pant and Dowers isn't that massive, but we seem to have cars now going up right at Broadfair and on the main road in Pant. Is there any way, do you have discussions with education? Because I think half of it is because the school's so good, everybody, because I went to a party on Saturday and half the parents went from Pant and Dowlas, most of them from the Gooners and Gallagher, and some from Egerig, and they all in the Pant school. Is there any way we having that discussion with our school departments? Because I think, and I'm sure Clive got the same problem in Cavartha, because that school is so good, because they got good schools.
This is
they
an
seem
issue.
to all come in. So is there any way we can talk to education and maybe look at whether we should be saying, look,
But we have,
School, you
yeah.
know, you should be going to school where you are.
Yeah, we have,
Catchment
yeah,
area.
we have regular meetings with education around, you know, what's happening when they're expanding their schools, putting porta cabins on them. And I actually asked the question a little while back about Pants School specifically, and I think 3/4 of the pupils there come from out of catchment.
Yeah, yeah.
I think there's about 100 pupils probably from the Pant Dowlas area, and they've got about 400 on roll. So yeah, and they don't entitled to transport. They're not entitled to transport because they choose to come to a different school. So parents are driving them. And unfortunately, yeah, it has increased the problems that we have. Obviously, my colleague Lindsay, she works quite closely up in the schools. You know, we're doing curb craft. We've got junior road safety officers. We go out, they speak to the parents about if they're parking dangerously or, you know, illegally, and ask them to move on. But it's such a difficult one because there isn't really anywhere else for them to park other than, like we say, perhaps park a little bit further away, but they don't want to. They want to come as close as they can. So it is an ongoing battle, and we do speak to education, as I say, regular meetings with them when they're discussing schools and school projects and increasing numbers, and we're like, well, this is going to have a knock-on effect, you know, and how can we try and alleviate that? And obviously we try and work with the schools, the people who actually live in the catchment, about walking, you know, is it safe for them to walk? Can we make improvements to that walking route to try and alleviate the cars? Because even people who live in the catchment come by car. Particularly if it's raining. So it's a difficult one to try and solve, and it's not just Merthyr. It's, you know, it's every sort of county, and I think we've all got the same sort of battle. But we try in through education and training to, you know, make them want to walk and not want to bring the car. Unfortunately, the child sometimes doesn't have that decision, is it? It's the parent that makes that decision, unfortunately. But, you know, I can assure you we do have those conversations.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor David Hughes. Just on that one, Sue Walker contacted us before, and the local authority, as the admissions body, is unable to do anything from a legal standpoint. If there's space available, we have a responsibility as a council to allow the admission. Okay, Councillor Geraint-Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I want to go back on the road closure costs and who pays and who doesn't pay. I believe, Martin, there is a policy in place that identifies who does pay. I think third sector don't pay for road closures, or and maybe like a political demonstration don't pay. Could you just confirm?
Well, parades, the organiser would pay. For example, Merthyr Pride paid. Last year. This remembrance parades, the traffic management budget is used for that. We don't pay for Christmas illumination events. Can't think of it. Obviously, utility companies, we charge them.
Yeah. But like for the half marathon, they would pay as well. Oh, yeah. They pay for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any non-profit making event. If it's a charity event, then they don't pay. Yeah, or non-profit making events, people don't
non-profit.
pay.
They're not third sector, so much more non-profit.
Yeah, non-profit. Yeah.
Right.
So if anybody comes to us and say we're not making money out of it, then we don't charge for that.
No charge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Geraint-Thomas. Councillor Bale Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Just a simple one. On this 20-mile default limit, when are we going to start the consultation out with the residents? Because I get URIC regular, because people wrote in, sent emails into the authorities, and they haven't had a reply. So when are we going to kick it all off? Please.
We were, well, the flooding this on the weekend has held us back a little bit, obviously because of the issues. We were hoping to have a consultation before Christmas, but I need to catch up with Carwyn. Obviously, we need to have a chat with Carwyn. There is going to be a consultation. We're going to get it done as quickly as possible, and that's about a similar sort of timescale events as other authorities as well.
Okay, no problem. As long as I know,
yeah.
I can tell the people who give me URIC.
Yeah.
And just to clarify on that, the people who emailed in to us, they had an email response back letting them know where we were with the 20 mile an hour. When they wrote in asking for roads to change, they were email back.
I'm glad to know that, and Shannon's going to.
Yeah. So anybody who emailed engineering and traffic had a response back, letting them know what we were doing.
Because they told me opposite.
No. Any email I had, they've had a response.
Can I just come back to you on your question about the Merthyr Pride? I'm not quite sure of the arrangement with that one, because I don't know what happened with that one. So that's something I can certainly come back to you on.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, because I wasn't quite sure what actually happened with that one. Okay.
Councillor Clive Jones.
On the 20-mile-an-hour limits, I understand that you, in view of the fact that the whole world and his wife at one time seemed to be opposing this, I'd love to have gone through the 450,000 signatures to see where they came from. You know, they were coming from all over the place. And the facts of it being operated a 12-month from September to September proved that the number of people killed, seriously injured, and minor injuries had come down throughout Wales. But I understand that, you know, you've written out to the public, and very few members of the public in Merthyr Tydfil, seeing as we've got a population of just under 60,000, replied to that. Am I correct?
Yeah, I think we had about just under 50 emails relating to about 20 roads within Merthyr, which we've reviewed and obviously identified ones that might have the potential. Obviously, I won't do that now, but there's a potential for some to revert back. But yeah, literally 50 emails came into the engineering and traffic inbox relating to 20 odd roads.
But the object of the exercise and the act from the Welsh Government was for people to drive slower, particularly through built-up areas, to save lives and not to have injuries from all sorts of people, including school children.
Totally.
And looking at the figures for the 12 months, it's working. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clive Jones. Mr. Philip Starr.
Thank you, Chair. This refers to some of the road safety schemes that you have in place to ensure improvements to accidents, curbcraft in particular. I presume the national standards cycling training is a replacement for the old cycling proficiency type things that used to go on. Yeah. Can you explain what junior road safety officers are?
I can explain that for you.
Thank you.
The junior road safety officers are just a group of school children within every school. Well, we've got about 14 at the moment of our 22 primary schools. And we work with those and they promote road safety within their school environment. They will go out at the end of the school day. They'll speak to parents about their parking. So it's a message coming from the children. Sometimes is more, I don't know what to say the word, but you know, it's better coming from the children than it is from an adult, because they'll just, you know, we just get a mouthful of abuse usually. So yeah, the children go out, they'll do campaigns, they'll do assemblies in the school, they'll do newsletters. Christmas time now, they'll probably do little road safety videos about keeping safe over Christmas and about parking outside the school. So we do a lot of work with them, and they are quite a useful tool to get messages out to the wider public as well, you know. So there's about 4 or 5 in each school, and they're year 5, 6 pupils. So it's just a small group of children that work with us and feed messages throughout the school community and the local community as well.
I know it's difficult to do this, but is there any evaluation of effectiveness? It's very hard to do that.
It's difficult with things like that because you just don't know.
It's more to do with education and awareness.
It's more education and awareness rather than a physical thing that you're doing. But, you know, it does work quite well. Some parents will still park where they want to park, even though they'll say, I'll move. They'll move today, but they'll be back there tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
does every school in the borough have...
At the moment, we've got about 14. Obviously, because resources we have, you know, there's myself who's mostly in the office with the higher level stuff and doing the bids to Welsh Government. And then I got my colleague Lindsay who goes out to the schools and does the in-school activities. But we've got about 14 of our primaries, and we like to make them self-sufficient, so Lindsay doesn't have to go there all the time. So I would like to get all the schools on board. but it's getting somebody in the school to take ownership.
Yeah,
They've
absolutely.
obviously they've got enough work, they say themselves, and it's an extra piece of work that they don't want sometimes, you know.
Yeah. It's a shame parents can't get more involved in
Yeah,
that, isn't it?
I
As
know.
opposed to teachers, you know.
Well,
it
I
goes on
know.
to teachers,
Yeah, I
but-
mean, you know, Curbcraft you mentioned earlier. I mean, that used to rely heavily on parent volunteers, but then they used to dwindle, and then there was DBS, and people got a little bit tetchy about who was taking the children out. So that sort of dwindled away. So it's down to sort of like Lindsay and maybe a support assistant going out, and that's like child pedestrian training. So it's basically Curbcraft is teaching your child to cross the
Yeah,
road.
yeah.
You know, so that's that program, and then national standards, as I said, you mentioned. Yeah, that's cycle training. We do on road and off road cycle training.
Yeah, it's good to see it's still going on, but it's a shame that, as you said, it's not then across the whole spectrum of the schools in the
No,
borough.
it's difficult, and a lot of it is because obviously national standards, we pay a contractor to come in, a local contractor to come in and deliver that service for us, and obviously with funding from Welsh Government even being cut further, I'm trying to sort of spread the money around a little bit, so some schools get everything, and you know we try and give them as much as we can, basically, the money that we got.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Philip Starr. Any other questions from members? I've just got. What do you comment when it comes to check? Okay, I just quick question, Geraint. Lisa Martin, it's in regards to the new 20 mile an hour speed limits. Has the criteria changed now for something to be done in regards to control and management? And if things still can be done in a 20 mile an hour zone, has that changed, or is it still the same?
Yeah, the criteria is still very similar to the current one, the previous one, Tony. Yeah.
You can still do the same kind of thing like sleeping policemen in 20 mile an hour.
They don't like that.
No, they don't like
Right.
the information and guidance we've had off Welsh Government is that they prefer local authorities not to introduce physical measures in 20 miles per hour zones or 20 miles per hour speed limit areas.
So it'd be signage only, would it?
Signage and
Road
road
markings.
markings.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, both. No more questions from members? No. Okay. We go to comments from members. Councillor Geraint Thomas.
Thank you, Chair. I just, refer members to page number 45 to the All Wales casualty list and child casualty table. And I think you should be congratulated with, the size of the team. For us to be 6th in the top quarter, in Wales, I think that's something to be proud of. Well done, guys.
Thank you, Councillor Geraint Thomas. Any other comments from members? Mr. Phil Starr.
It's not a question, it is a comment. It's just a request again for information. You're doing what we need to do next in that section. Continue to apply for additional external funding. Is there any?
We put bids in every year, don't we, for...
Is this for Welsh Government or for various?
It's for Welsh Government, like road safety or similar sort of funding. But it's very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
We put schemes forward, but it's quite typical that we don't get any money allocation.
Yeah, I think this year we've got one safe routes application going in, one road safety capital application, and then the road safety revenue, which pays for the Curbcraft coordinator and the cycle training. So that's what will be submitted. Sometimes there's additional funding comes available, and if it does, I jump on that straight away.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just where my money comes from, and that's what I have to use and work with.
Yeah. Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Councillor Bill Smith, comments?
Thank you, Chair. Comment is, I think the report is basic what we know, because at the end of the day, Merthyr's road blocked. So many cars in the town, around the areas, wherever you go, it's chaos. So the town centre report coming out with ASP, because there's more cars in town around the arcade and people are concerned about it because the fumes I didn't know this right myself. I got a batches, but the older generation are on about the fumes. The cars will leave and take over. So we're going to sort something like that out on up a town because we want to really look at it. Because if we leave it go any longer, it's going to be chaos. You cannot move about now sometimes. But as Garen said, Friday night, Saturday night, the takeaway boys, you know what they do. They park anywhere, pick the stuff up, and off they go. So if we can have it park ASP, it'd be over the moon.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Bill Smith, any other comments? No? Okay, just for me then. Thank you both for the reports and for the work you do. It's normally from comment or queries you get is normally from frustrated councillors that have been contacted by residents. So thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much all. Agenda item number 5 is a forward work programme. Next meeting is on the 20th of January 2025. We've got 2 items on there, Neil, but I don't believe 2 are coming.
Yeah, for January.
Yeah.
We're okay.
We're okay for January,
I
okay.
think in the quarterly technical meeting, we're going to raise about sort of March and April.
Oh, March and April, that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, waste recovery targets and enforcement. I think that a lot of that will depend on what RAP come back with in their report, because I also did want to do a small task and finish, because I think in the monthly update, not the last one, the one before that, that was sent out to councillors, it mentioned that RAP were doing a report, and it also they were looking. The part of that report would be 3 weekly and 4 weekly bin collections, which obviously a lot of people would be against. So I want to do a little task and finish group if it's going to come to that agenda item, or on that date, sorry. The other one then, Neil, is 28th of April. Flood Management Action Plan progress. I think that might be a little bit of a difficult one, to be honest, with what's happened lately. I know the all the teams have been working flat out, to be honest, for the last 2-3 weeks at multiple locations, obviously throughout the borough, and that's why Carwyn Morris wasn't here today. Obviously, we will have questions, and we'd like to visit a couple of sites as well to see what kind of work they do, but I think we have to be mindful of what's happening with them at the moment. So I think we'll probably get a further update in maybe after Christmas or something like that. I really don't want to rush them. Neil, did you want to add anything?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I think. Yeah.
Okay. Did anyone want? Sorry, did it? Councillor Garen Thomas.
Yeah,
sorry.
only on that flood prevention topic. You know, like 28th of April may be a bit soon for it to come, but we have spent millions upon millions of pounds now on flood defence projects, and I think we need to know which ones worked, which ones failed, what needs to be more money to be spent on, improved, etc. Because I know from my ward's perspective, some of the investment that went in there into the mountain streams, you know, the same thing happened again with Storm Bert, and I know, Chair, you've had issues about fly tipping between private land and collection. I think we've got a very similar problem with flooding. You know, what can be done on private land, and I think that needs to be addressed.
Thank you, Councillor Garen Thomas. Mr. Philip Starr.
Yeah, it's connected with what Councillor Thomas just said. Is there a map of sorts of culverts and streams in the borough? Is it readily available?
I don't know about readily available, but I know it's available to Cara Morrison, the highways engineer, because what happened in Pant at the weekend when I was going with him on Friday night, he was able to bring up on his phone exactly where the culvert was. So I'm not too sure if it's available to councillors, but it probably could be made available because to the committee.
We had very, very useful maps provided by planning and the local development plan about spaces which were earmarked for housing and for various developments. We've had ones in the past about land owned by the council with regard to grass cutting. Those kinds of things are extremely useful in raising awareness of who's responsible for these particular things. Something which shows water courses, culverts in particular, I think would be of real value, because a lot of the culverts, don't know they're there. They might be on private land, they may be on publicly owned land, but it would be of real value to know where these particular things exist.
That could be something to be raised as well. That the council are aware of what as Councillor Geraint Thomas mentioned, private land, what's on there as well. So Neil, if you could write that down as part of that one when it actually comes. Thank you, Mr. Philip Starr. Councillor David Hughes.
Just one question. I did read it with the fly tipping. Our working from home policy. Can we, everything around when people are in work, or if they're not in work, or they work from home? Especially when we're talking about issues when we're talking about issues of the weather and all that. If we got staff in work, they're much more likely to react a lot quicker than if they are working from home, because I think that goes right through the council, but especially when we're talking about neighbourhood services, because they're out there doing the work. To be working at home all the time, it's I think we need to look at our working from home policy for neighbourhood services alone.
Okay, thank you, Councillor David Hughes. Councillor Bill Smith.
I think Councillor Hughes is right. We've got to review this. Because sometimes they come down in the morning and you see officers, not about. You waste the time. I'm down this morning, forget about it. I think we want to refer it to wherever the committee got to have a look at it, serious. I mean, not serious, very, very serious, because it's sometimes not working. But another part was Phil was saying, when we knocked Georgetown down years ago, right, we didn't know how many culverts was about. And you get the same problem now, Dowlers. You got culverts in Dowlers, nobody knows. They just pop on the ground. So you can have the report of that of the highways, whoever's doing it, because you need it. But it's a lot of culverts about, nobody knows they're there, and that's the trouble. They're all amalgamated and they're getting bigger. Yeah, but no. And the culverts we got in the town centre, very narrow, small, not low, no. And Sunday night, they knocked the wall down by Union Street, right? Next door. And then in the Union Street, since it was a hospital, 6:30 on a Sunday night, knocked it down. They move a car, just knocked it down, right? And knocked the rest of the building down. He murders it. Imagine that, 6:30 on a Sunday night. Company. Murdered it. Just in case information for you, so.
Thank you, Councillor Bill Smith. Just in regards to forward work programme, if anyone has anything they'd like to bring forward for the end of this year or for next year as well, don't hesitate to get in touch. Okay, anyone else? No? Okay. Scrutiny referrals, we have none. Agenda item number 7 is the report recommendations. Agenda item number 3, which is the memorial bench tree policy. The purpose of the report was that Scrutiny Committee notes the contents of this report. I think we've gone a little bit further than that because something Councillor Geraint Thomas mentioned, and then authorised by Judith. There's an action in there if you could note that, and we'll have some follow up on that, and that can be added into the policy when it comes to full council. Thank you, Neil. Agenda item number 4 was traffic management and road safety service overview. The purpose of that report was that the content of the report be discussed and noted in relation to the current arrangements in place for the management of traffic throughout the county borough and the role of the road safety section. I think quite a lot of stuff has been brought up by Councillor Bill Smith and Councillor Clive Jones in regards to the top of the walk as well. And I think we did discuss and we did note it. I don't know if anyone has anything to add.
For me, only that the officers would speak to the police on some of the go safe work. That was something that they're going to take on going forward.
Yeah, note that as well. Okay. Councillor Clive Jones.
Yeah, and the number of points I brought up, you know, they've logged that and they're going to look at it. So I'm satisfied that those the issues which we brought to their attention this afternoon are going to be looked at.
How regularly do we install permanent traffic lights in the borough?
Permanent?
Yeah.
Well, there is, well, the engineers will tell, but there is a set procedure that they've got to go through.
Is that something that this committee could look at? Or would it come under the traffic management? Yeah.
Well, it's traffic management and others involved, isn't it?
Consultation.
It's the consultation issue as well.
Yeah.
But they've got to go through all the aspects and the reasons why people are asking for permanent traffic lights.
Your suggestion was a very serious one there, which would have an impact on traffic in the area, but what it would do is control it better.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about that particular one for a long time as to that would be, for me, a permanent solution to what I thought was a problem which was not solvable. But as I see it, that particular point, it would be not temporary, it would have to be permanent.
I think for Phil as well, I think other than, you know, Pelican crossings, like when, you know, from time to time, I think the last set of permanent traffic lights are in on Bethesda Street.
Oh, yeah.
The Mormon Church, you know.
You're right to ask the question. It's infrequent.
I think the only other thing you could do would be a big one way, wouldn't it? Going down past the Bindalling Club.
That would be a nightmare.
Oh, absolutely. That's
I think on what you're saying about the traffic lights, the only concern they'd have there, as you say, is them residents in that small section. If they are still able to park there and reassure them that that's okay, I think they wouldn't have a problem.
No, and I think they could do it with permanent traffic lights.
Okay. It's moving all the time.
Yeah.
Councillor Bill Smith.
On the comments just had, when they discussed that with the highway department, they reckon traffic lights wouldn't work sometimes because there's not enough room for 2 cars to pass.
But that if it's higher up.
No, it's going to be there. Simple as that, right?
The car.
It'll be narrow, right? 2 cars or a van and a lorry can't pass. The road is too narrow. And that's the big issue we have there. You take the payments away, you know, see what happens, see where they come back.
Yeah, I think it's they get a lot of requests from councillors and because we get a lot of hassle from residents, but they do a good job, because I have seen before where I've asked for something to be done, and there's unintended consequences sometimes, and they will tell you about it, because sometimes the unintended consequences could be worse than what the problem that's already there, and you could end up upsetting a lot more residents than you mean to. Okay, so I think everyone's happy with the report recommendations. Feedback on scrutiny activities. Neil, do you want to do this?
Yeah, it's only quick.
Yeah.
It's only a quick comment following the joint flight tipping workshop we held on Friday, is that if there's any sort of comments or feedback with regards to the workshop or the policy review that was discussed. If you can let myself or Councillor Salmon know by the end of tomorrow, so we just can consider them then.
I can't remember what it
Okay, thank you, Neil. Agenda item number 9, any other business deemed urgent by the chair? I just have one bit. I'm sure this will be done at full council anyway, but it's just a thank you to all teams in the council that have been out over the last couple of weeks with the flooding. But obviously, because we're in the neighbourhood services scrutiny committee, then we kind of mentioned them, the highways engineers, and they have been fantastic. I think we've witnessed that over the last couple of weeks. Okay. Nothing else from me, so I now declare this meeting closed. Thank you very much. Thank you all.